I'm Isabella Lenarduzzi. I'm a social entrepreneur for almost 40 years now. I'm an Ashoka Fellow. And 18 years ago, I've launched JUMP Solutions for Equity at Work. It deals with gender equality at work, all diversities and inclusion. What I see is that we might have a very big problem, especially for gender equality with the reinforcement of the ultra-right in Europe. Let's speak only about Europe, please, because the difference of women's place is pretty much different continent from continent. So speaking about Europe, this is a risk that we see that is coming. And in order to be sure that the rights that were achieved for women are not going backwards, we need to consolidate them. For example, France has decided to put the right for abortion in its constitution because they have seen the example of the United States. Another example is the Istanbul Convention against all violences against women. Poland, for example, just before the latest election, decided to withdraw from this convention. So we need to really to be very cautious about that. Another thing that I would say is the major challenge is that we globally, we think, yes, now, you know, women and men, they are equal. This is absolutely not true. Yes, of course, we do have the same rights as men in this small part of the world and not for such a long time. But real equality, effective equality is not yet there. If we don't recognize that, then we won't do all the efforts that are necessary to achieve real equality. We need to measure inequalities between women and men in order to be able to act. Inequality between women and men is really other inequality. It's at the core of these systemic inequalities that a society that is still patriarchal lives. And so we need to acknowledge that. We think in this part of the world that now we are free, that we are free of our choices, of our opinions. But if we don't recognize, realize the effect, the impact that patriarchy has on our way of thinking, on our mindset, then we are not so much free. So we need absolutely to learn to unlearn. We need to have a lot of readings. We need to listen to podcasts. We need to trust the voice of women. And we need to listen to them, not to answer, but to understand. So we have to open our mind to new ways of thinking. Otherwise, what we do in our everyday life is much less free than what we think we are. As individuals, we are not as fair as we think we are. We are full of biases. We are full of stereotypes. We need to work on our privileges in order to behave in the right way towards everybody else. And what happens with organizations, it's exactly the same. Organizations are not fair. Organizations do discriminate because they are the reflect of the society. They are the reflect of their people. And organizations are full of biases. Human resources processes are full of biases. If you don't work on them, at least, if you don't include consciously, you exclude unconsciously. So organizations need absolutely to acknowledge that they are not as fair as they think they are, and they need to work on that. So how can they work on their potential discrimination of some people, women and a lot of different other categories? First of all, they need to embark the leadership. The leaders are the ones that be accountable for the culture of the company and for the biases in the human resources processes. Then they really need to build their case, because if Solvay, Sanofi, AB InBev or Oxfam do something on diversity, equity and inclusion, they do it mainly for the same reasons, but they have specificities. They need to embed it strategically within their vision, within their strategy, within their values, and each of them are very different. So they need to do the business case for the corporates. Then they absolutely need to measure. They need to measure at least the differences among women and men. Where are the women? Where are the men? Where the kind of jobs that they hold, every one of them. So they really need to measure in order to have a clear picture so that they can act, because then based on the measurement, what they can decide to go for specific objectives and specific KPIs, and then they need to make a plan. And one of the things that is very important is really to train everybody, the top management first, but all staff then, on inclusive behaviors. You need to change the corporate culture in order to make it more inclusive. And then what you need to do is to make your managers accountable for it. So not only assess them on the factual results, their performance, but also their behaviors and the well-being of their team. Otherwise, it won't last. So in order to make a sustainable change in the corporate culture towards inclusion, you really need to hold the managers and especially the top leaders accountable. JUMP is the European social enterprise that aims to create a more inclusive world, a more equitable world. By working with organizations, private ones or institutions. We think that the best lever to change the corporate culture of the organization is gender equality, because women are the outsiders still in the workplaces, and they are 50% of the population and 60% of the graduates. So it's the biggest and the most efficient gateway in order to achieve a better representation of all diversities and really to change the organization, the culture of the organization. We do auditing, we do consulting, we do a lot of training, and we deliver a lot of different tools, like for example this one. Everything is available on our website. This is our latest handbook for inclusion in the new world of work. It means the hybrid world of work, because yes, it's not a given, it's not easy. So you need to learn how to do that. And we hope we can help by giving the tools for free to everybody. Some months ago, JUMP issued the first ranking for the companies of the BEL 20, so the biggest one that are quoted in the stock exchange, about the gender balance at their top. It means the place of women on boards and the place of women in executive committee. And what we have shown is that if you do not have specific quotas for women at a certain level, women completely disappear. So Belgium, because we have voted more than 10 years ago for a quota of 1/3 of women on boards, women now achieve on average for the quoted companies something like 40%, which is absolutely not bad, but it was thanks to the quota. If you compare with the place of women within the executive committee, it's less than 17%, and it's even decreasing year by year. It's already nothing and it's decreasing. So we have made an important public relation campaign and press campaign in order to send a signal to the society in saying that's not possible. We are 60% of the graduates. If this society is a meritocracy, like everyone is saying, then you should have 60% of women at the top management level, which is absolutely not the case. And it's not good for women, but it's not good for anybody. It's not good for the companies, because if you have always the same people around the table that have the final decision, then they won't find necessarily the good solution to the problems they face, because there is a lack of diversity. So encouraged the government to take the opportunity of the European directive Women on Boards that needs to be embedded in our legislation. We have asked them to take that opportunity in order not only to reinforce quotas for women on boards, but to have a new quota, a quota for the number of women in executive committee in big companies. And the Minister for Equal Opportunities has accepted our request and was followed then by the Minister for Employment. So we are waiting restlessness for this decision and this final announcement with the text of the law. The second thing that we are waiting to do in the coming month is the second survey on the experience of sexism by women. We have done the first ever in Europe a survey about sexism for women. It was in 2016, just before the Me Too movement. So we will now be able to check if something has changed. We probably are more sensitive to sexism. How does it change in our experience and in the final numbers? So these are two among a lot of different things that we are waiting for. Ashoka all the time says we are all change makers. I need you as change makers. Please build with me a coalition in order to foster a better real gender equality. It's very important. We need absolutely everybody, especially in these tough times where the ultra-right is coming in a much more oppressive way, and they have a specific vision of the place of women in the society. So please join us. You can contact us on our website, which is jump.eu.com, or on our social media. Thank you for your help.